Hey guys, ExoticGang here. Welcome back to another video in a series where I react to and learn things about Australia. Now, today in this video, I got a little bit of an interesting one. Today, I am reacting to why Starbucks failed in Australia. I don't really know the reason why Starbucks failed in Australia. At least in my opinion, Starbucks is a pretty popular restaurant, around the world, at least from what I'm aware of. We have quite a few stores here in Canada, but it is pretty shocking to me that that Starbucks entered Australia and somehow failed there. I don't really know what Australians didn't like about Starbucks. There's quite a few interesting things at Starbucks. There's a green mermaid at the front of the building. But anyways, but Starbucks, in my opinion, is pretty popular. It's not, but in my opinion, it's kind of like Tim Hortons, but it is a little, but I would have to say, I do go to Starbucks, from time to time, but, I do have to say that I do go to Tim Hortons a lot more than Starbucks. But that's obviously not saying that Starbucks is bad. Starbucks itself, it honestly does have a pretty good menu, to say the least. But yeah, there's lots of great stuff here at Starbucks. Looking at the website where they have the menu, you can see that they really have lots of good stuff. They got coffee, hot coffee, hot tea, cold tea, refreshers, bottled beverages, and then they also got breakfast, treats, bakery, lunch, snacks, and then they got at-home stuff that you can bring with you as well. So Starbucks, at least in my opinion, if we go to one of their sections, you can see that they have lots of good stuff, and it honestly does surprise me that they somehow managed to fail in Australia, out of all places, because Starbucks is a pretty good, is honestly a pretty good place, in my opinion. Taking my opinion out of it, that is. But I do have to say that this is honestly, Starbucks is honestly a really popular place, around the world. So, like I mentioned before, it honestly does surprise me. It honestly really surprises me that Starbucks managed to somehow fail in Australia. So today, I have a video that I found online that should hopefully help me figure out why Starbucks failed in Australia and why Australians didn't like Starbucks. So I guess without further ado, let's hop into why Starbucks failed in Australia. Let's take a look.
Starbucks has coffee shops all over the world. There are more than 28,000 locations in 76 markets.
Wow, that's actually
from Shanghai to Guantanamo Bay. And in China, a new Starbucks location opens up every 15 hours.
What?
But there is one continent that seems uninterested in the hype over the Seattle-based coffee chain. And that continent is Australia. It's proven to be one of the toughest markets in the world to break into. So tough, in fact, that Starbucks closed more than 2/3 of its stores on the continent back in 2008.
What?
So what went so wrong with Starbucks in Australia? To answer that, let's go back to July of 2000, when Starbucks opened its first Australian shop in Sydney. From there, it expanded fast. By 2008, Starbucks had 87 stores across the continent.
Okay.
I think one of the problems for Starbucks, and it's true for a lot of businesses that have been successful in one country, is that they thought that their business model could just roll out to a different environment and there was no need for them to adjust.
But that was the problem. It tried to grow the empire too fast. Starbucks
What?
rapidly opened up multiple locations instead of slowly integrating them into the Australian market.
When they launched too rapidly and didn't give the Australian consumer an opportunity to really develop an appetite for the Starbucks brand. They also moved into regional areas, into outer suburbs of major cities. And so for the Australian consumer, it was almost like it was too available for them. And so there wasn't this point of difference, this want, this need for Starbucks, and it wasn't an organic growth, which is what we very much saw in the US.
In its first 7 years in Australia, Starbucks accumulated $105 million in losses. By 2007, Starbucks Australia was hanging on by a thread. taking big loans from the US, totaling up to $54 million. And in 2008, Starbucks announced it was shutting down 61 stores. But of course, 2008 was a difficult time for businesses due to the financial crisis. Along with the Australia closures, Starbucks also closed 600 underperforming American stores. But even still, such a retreat in Australia was embarrassing for the brand.
When you're shutting down 75 stores, for the Australian consumer, when they did leave the market, or at least a large number of their stores were shut down, they didn't really care.
It's partly because Australians are spoiled for choice when it comes to coffee. Australia's coffee market is one of the biggest in the world. The industry is expected to hit more than $6 billion in total revenue in 2018. They've been immersed in nuances of cafe culture since the mid-1900s, when Italian and Greek immigrants began traveling to the country. The immigrants introduced Australians to espresso. By the 1980s, Australians were fully engulfed in cafe culture. They've also grown accustomed to specialty menu items, like a flat white or an Australian macchiato.
So cafes in Australia were born out of like the Italian culture of, meeting a friend and knowing your local barista and it being kind of like a local meeting place where everyone knew each other, and that coffee was just a part of that. And then Starbucks came in with what is more of an American style like coffee culture, which is essentially just like coffee is a product, coffee is a commodity, coffee is like perk me up in the morning. It's caffeination.
Starbucks had...
Okay, so I kind of see like where this is going. So apparently, Starbucks, they try to enter the market, and what happened was apparently they didn't really adjust to the Australian market, and Australia was one of the biggest coffee markets in the world, and they thought that with all these coffee shops that were either locally owned or Australian founded or based in Australia, or even had like a large fan base like coffee companies that were founded and based outside of Australia, and then have stores in Australia. I don't really know if that makes sense, but I kind of see like where this is going. So apparently this basically sounds like they basically entered the market, and to me it sounds like they opened so many stores and Australians saw Starbucks, I guess, like as some sort of threat. That's kind of like what I'm getting at. And basically coffee shops in Australia were apparently more of a hangout spot than an actual store, really. Maybe not a store, but an actual I guess you could say maybe a coffee shop, because I guess that's kind of what Starbucks really is. But it definitely does surprise me that this happens to actually be like maybe the downfall of Starbucks in Australia, just them expanding too fast. And I guess maybe Australians seeing this as maybe, I guess, some sort of threat. So that's kind of like what I'm getting at here. Them seeing Starbucks as like a threat.
A basic menu and offered more sugary drinks, which most Australians didn't like.
In Australia,
What?
where local tastes are different, so we don't really want a coffee that's hundreds of ounces with lots of sugar in it. We want something a bit more sophisticated.
Plus, Starbucks charged more than local cafes.
What?
So Australians instead opted to pay less for coffee they liked from a local barista they trusted.
And so when you come up,
Starbucks was more expensive than any other coffee shop in Australia? How on earth is that even possible? How? What? I don't even know like what to say here. Like, it shocks me that that they were more expensive than any other coffee shop in Australia. How, like, what? How on earth do you, like... Okay, I can probably see, like, why this is, like, so like so problematic in Australia. Like the sugary drinks that they have, apparently they didn't sit well with Australians, and then apparently they were more expensive than any other coffee shop in Australia. How on earth is this even a thing? Like, I've been to like many shops like in Canada that I just find like crazy expensive, but this like I've heard of businesses like charging like crazy amounts of crazy prices like for certain amounts of food. Like, I think there was like this one place that I heard of that sold pizza for like $100, but like that could be like problematic. But what on earth was the price for Starbucks in Australia compared to like other coffee shops in Australia? I'm actually a little bit curious now to like find out what the prices were. How on earth was Starbucks like more expensive than any other coffee shop in Australia? Like, I could imagine like Starbucks like being like maybe like $2 or $3 at least for at least some of the items, but being the most expensive, that is insane to me. I could probably now see why Starbucks was struggling and failing so much in Australia. Like, this is honestly like kind of sad, like once you look at it.
I mean, with this big like, hey, we're going to open all these cafes and they're all going to be to-go focused. It just was the complete wrong market for what the Australian was used to.
But there's one American coffee company that's thriving in Australia. Founded in Chicago and now based in Australia, Gloria Jean's got the traction in Australia that Starbucks couldn't.
Yes. I've actually heard of Gloria Jones, believe it or not. Yeah. So apparently, Starbucks, they have like a format. They assumed that the format that they've had already in, they basically assumed that the format they already had going in the US would work in Australia. And Starbucks was like more of a to-go based, company by the sounds of it, if that makes sense. But the fact that this was not what Australians wanted just kind of is shocking and very baffling in my opinion. I honestly like can't even think like of another word to describe here besides those. But the fact that Gloria Jean's was doing something that that Starbucks wasn't makes me kind of curious. I kind of want to know what they're doing that's basically making them thriving in Australia. So let's take a look.
Gloria Jean's has more than 400 Australian locations and serves more than 35 million consumers in Australia each year. So what is Gloria Jean's doing in Australia that Starbucks isn't? Well, the company attributes its success to two Australians who franchised the business in their home country. Shops started to show up in Australia in 1996. Fast forward to today, the company has a presence in every Australian state.
Wow.
The reason? Its menu. The chain offers a wide variety of espresso drinks and specialty coffee. Failing to adapt its menu to Australians' coffee culture proved to be a mistake for Starbucks. And the company faces another challenge later this year: Italy. Starbucks is opening its first store in Milan in late 2018. Home of the espresso, Italy is rich in cafe culture. But according to Starbucks, it's not going to make the same mistakes that it did in Australia. The company said that it would develop in Italy with humility and respect for its coffee culture. It announced it would be opening a roastery, which is not your average cafe. It gives customers a chance to see coffee beans roasted and processed before their eyes. So there's a chance that it won't struggle like it did in Australia. But Starbucks isn't admitting defeat in Australia either. Starbucks is staging a comeback on the continent. In 2014, Starbucks locations in Australia were purchased by the Mount Waverley-based Withers Group. Starbucks told CNBC that since its sale to the Withers Group, the company learned a lot. So this time, it's taking a different approach to putting Starbucks on the continent.
So if you just think about Australia as a big tourism destination, there's a lot of US and Chinese tourists. Starbucks have been very successful in China, and it makes a lot of sense for them to build out because there are people looking for something that's familiar to them.
Now with 39 locations in Brisbane, Melbourne, the Gold Coast, and Sydney areas, this time it's not looking to appeal to Australians. But instead, the coffee giant hopes to be a familiar face for tourists visiting popular vacation destinations in Australia.
Australia has always been a high-volume tourist market. The same thing in terms of international students at our universities, potential opportunities for them. And we're starting to see Starbucks enter into some large shopping malls here in Australia as well.
Australia welcomed 9 million tourists from 2017 to 2018, and those international visitors spent more than $30 billion in 2017 alone.
What?
So tourists could
That is
possibly be the key
insane.
to keeping the company afloat and preventing another downfall.
Wow, so that's honestly pretty interesting, actually. Definitely learned quite a bit there. I know that that was a pretty short video, but there was definitely lots of information packed in there. So apparently Starbucks plans on making a comeback in Australia. But hearing like all the mistakes that they've made in Australia, like not adapting to the market, not having a menu appealing to Australians, and apparently opening too fast. Like to me, like I could probably see like why that might be like a problem, like expanding too fast. Like if it was expanding really fast in like a rural area, like a very small community, it could definitely like be a threat to like locally owned coffee shops. Like I do know that in most rural areas there are like locally owned coffee shops. So if a big brand like Starbucks was to enter like in that was to enter in an area where a whole bunch of locally owned coffee shops were like actually present, this could definitely like be like a big threat to them, and I could probably see why as well. But yeah, definitely lots of information there to say the least. But anyways, I think with all that being said, I think this is where I'm gonna end off this video. And also, after seeing all this, after hearing all this, I have one question for anybody who's watching this from Australia. Has Starbucks already made a comeback? And how is this comeback like turning out if it's already in effect? Are they succeeding more? Or are they just struggling again? Like, I kind of want to know, if you're from Australia, please let me know down in the comments below how this comeback is going. That is, if it's already in effect, or if it already has happened. I kind of want to know like how this comeback is going for them. But anyways, like I mentioned before, I do want to thank you guys so much for watching this video. And this is also where I'm going to be ending off the video as well. So yeah, don't forget to like the video and subscribe, because I try and do videos every single day. And if you have anything else that you want me to react to and learn about Australia, leave it down in the comment section below as well. And until then, I will see you guys in the next one. Goodbye!